Hi, this is Sam Lagana with the Los Angeles Rams. Whose house? You're listening to the Los Angeles Rams UK podcast. Undenied worldwide. The Los Angeles Rams. It doesn't get any better than this. Let's go Rams!
Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the LA Rams UK podcast, episode 91, Bowled Out. I'm John. And joined as me, as always, is Andy. Andy, how's it going, mate?
I'm not too bad, thanks, John. How are you?
I'm not bad. You all bowled out from bowl season being completed now?
Yeah, that's it. All done. Now we've got to look forward to the off-season, and everyone's now 0-0 and the new season starts.
That's it. We've all hit reset. Back to square one. 2020 is in the books. So, we're here this evening to go over a couple of things. So, we'll go over the Pro Bowl. We'll also talk about Superbowl 57, and then we'll talk about what's been happening so far in the Rams off-season. So to start off with, we had the new look Pro Bowl games, which took place in Las Vegas over a number of days. Andy, did you watch any of the games at all?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I was working all the way through them, so I didn't get a chance to actually watch any of them.
So I managed to watch parts of the flag football games that actually on like the Pro Bowl night. I missed the stuff in the run up to it. So anyone that didn't see it, we've gone from we did have Pro Bowl games when you think about it going back. We'd have like precision passing and whatnot. The main difference is really here is that it's a non-contact, it's flag football games. So we had 3 flag football games. Then we had the precision passing, lightning round, longest drive, dodgeball, kick-tack-toe, gridiron, gauntlet, best catch, and like each game was worth like 3 points, whatever. And then if I keep up going in, whatever the score was going into the final flag football game, that was the starting score, and then it was basically the winner of that game won the Pro Bowl games. So I mean, the mini games aside, the flag football games was quite interesting to watch. We've also got Jalen Ramsey, who came in as an alternate, getting physical. But it's one of those ones, just like in week 18, he can't exactly change his momentum. But it reminded me of what, did you ever play NFL Street?
Yeah.
On like the PlayStation, that it reminded me a bit of like that. And I think from that aspect, I quite enjoyed watching the flag football games because it was something different, because the Pro Bowl games used to be worth watching. They used to be quite entertaining, but I don't know how you felt about it. But in recent years, it's a nothing game. It's meaningless. The guys barely want to make any contact out there. Like,
yeah, they weren't allowed to.
That's it. I suppose they're contracted to actual teams. They're being told, no, we want you healthy. We don't want you getting injured, whatnot. And there's been lots of debates about what they should do with the Pro Bowl. And I've seen things like suggesting that perhaps what they need to do is the 2 worst teams need to play each other to decide who's number 1 or something like that. Or I've seen someone came up with an elaborate idea. If we expanded the playoffs to 8 teams going in, then what you could do is the bottom 8 teams could play off for the highest draft picks. But it's not worth the hassle. So obviously the NFL's had seen fit that they need to change something up, and their idea is to have the games in 3 flag games. One thing I would say that I would have liked to have heard is what the players were actually saying to each other, because the language was quite choice throughout the games, to be perfectly honest with you, as you'd expect. But
I did like the idea of the flag football game, to be honest. It just added a little bit of more, something different. And also, especially, flag football seems to be getting quite popular now for, people. So seeing sort of the stars doing it, sort of maybe gives it that little impetus, which would then, put more people interested in the actual thing. So I do think, compared to how it was, it did seem like, to me, a good idea. And it seems to be, most people, it's been well received as well. It was a lot of tweets and posts I've seen as people saying, I actually enjoyed watching the Pro Bowl game this year with the flag football, because it was something different and it was just fun and exciting to watch, rather than the boring, stupidity that was, what were basically walkthrough games for the actual game itself previously for the last number of years.
That's it. Yeah, I think it's something new, refreshing. Pardon the pun, it flies the flag for flag football, which, like you said, it is kind of on the up, and it's easy. It's easier, even here in the UK. It's easier to get into flag football than it is for contact football, because you obviously need less players for starters and whatnot. Where I live, we've actually got a local flag football team, and I've taken the bottling mould or two down to see them and whatnot, and it is actually quite entertaining to watch because it's shorter games. So for kids, it's good to kind of show them for the kind of attention span rather than having them sit through 3 hours of football. It's shorter games and they can just there's more scoring involved as well in a lot of the games. So it can be more entertaining, I guess, at that level. I think though there is a risk though, like whilst it's new, it's refreshing, and yeah, generally it has been well received. A couple of years down the line, people might go, well, it's the same every year now, and then you're kind of back in that rut. But I think these the way that the NFL could do it there is to take the Pro Bowl and essentially they had the Manning brothers as team captains, so let them then pick their teams, and as they did. We had that in the actual Pro Bowl game, when it was back the contact game. So I would guess that would be the next step that they'll go down eventually with this to kind of keep the longevity. But say 10 years down the line, if it's the exact same format, are we going to be back in the same position where people are like, well, it's the same games every year? So it's one of those ones. Then could you add something to it to make it more lucrative, I guess? But for now, I quite enjoyed what I watched from it, and it was good. And fingers crossed that it does kind of keep going down the kind of more positive route, and people are willing to take it on, because, like, I guess it kind of showcased the fun side of football as well. You got to see the players enjoying. Not even the mini games. I'm just talking purely about the flag games, enjoying those games as well. I mean, you got like, a digs picking off a digs.
Yeah.
So you got moments like that, like coming out, which was good to see, I guess. But I think one thing that jumped out for me was Huntley being brought in. I guess Josh Allen didn't want to play, is what must be the case. Like, it's because you've got a guy who's a second string quarterback that's come in. He's not really played many games. It's like that kind of makes a mockery of the selection to Pro Bowls. Do you know what I mean? But I suppose it's optional, I guess, even at the flag level.
The Pro Bowl games have always been an option that players can just be like, I'm not interested, I'm not going to attend, it kind of does make a mockery of it a little bit when you say you've got the likes of Tyler Huntley, who's a backup and has only played a couple of games through because of injuries, and you kind of like, you're telling me there's literally nobody better than him that you could have got in.
Exactly.
There's 32 teams with starting quarterbacks. All right, take out the 2 Super Bowl ones, obviously. So you still got 15 other. You're telling me there's nobody better than Tyler Huntley this season. Surely Baker Mayfield was more deserving than Tyler Huntley, for God's sake. Things like that. You're like, come on. It was a bit of a mockery.
It was interesting in the post game, the comments from Derek Carr, having a dig at the Raiders, because obviously Derek Carr's now been released by the Raiders. They were saying he was moving on, but I think they were really trying to push the trade for him, because I think it was either yesterday or today there was a clause kicking in, and they'd have to pay him. So they've eventually had to release them, and I think the report in the comment was something like, I've been saying like, I've been being hot in Vegas, and he says like, I've not really had many of those days here. Maybe that's why I'm moving on. See something I dig, like that that the team don't see that he's been a great quarterback, so it's time to move on. I think the reason for that is probably because when they brought in Davante Adams, I think they expected him and Carr to link up the way that we saw Stafford and Cup link up from scratch last year, and it's just not worked. And it's the rumours are now kicking about that Rodgers is going to finally leave Green Bay, but the destination is going to be somewhere in the AFC, and the Jets and the Raiders are the two teams that seem to be getting mentioned. And I think you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong here, Andy. I think the Raiders are very healthy cap-wise as well.
Yeah, I believe now that they've released Carr, they're not too bad. But, that they've got quite a number of upcoming free agents themselves. I mean, stupidly, they never bothered to pick up Josh Jacobs' fifth-year option. Look at the season he's just had, so he's going to be wanting big bucks.
Yep.
And I do think they've treated Derek Carr a little bit unfairly because I don't think he's been that bad a quarterback for them.
No,
at the end of the day, he's probably had one of the worst offensive lines in front. The Raiders' starting thing, the offensive line for the last number of years has basically been on par with what we had last year, and that was our third and fourth strings. They've not been very good. They've been missing key pieces through injuries. Derek Waller and what have you, Hunter Renfro. And new quarterback coach coming in, new head coach coming in. I don't think he deserved quite what he got, the way he was treated for the final few weeks. But maybe their heads are being turned by the fact they're thinking we can get a Rodgers or a. But I'm sure the Broncos thought that this time last year when they got Russell Wilson, and look how quickly that fell flat on its face. So just because he's and let's be honest, Rodgers didn't have the best season this year either.
He did not. No.
He did not look the shell of himself, and there's no guarantee. He's gone away now for his week-long dark retreat or whatever the hell he's called it to make his decisions as to whether he wants to come even play next year. So potentially they've flung away their quarterback, and then potentially if Rodgers just comes out of his retreat and goes, "I'm done, I quit, I'm retiring."
You'll be able to return to the earth, yeah.
It'll be, all of a sudden it'll be, we've actually, are we really going to go with Jared Stidham as our starting quarterback next year? I expect to compete.
But that's it, yeah. I don't think they will. I think they're holding out for the hope of being able to get a Rodgers and hoping that they can use Adams to entice him to come to Vegas. That's what I kind of think. I mean, the Jets are the other place that Rodgers has been touted about going to. I'm saying that, I suppose New York, New York's cold. He's used to the cold as well. So he could play there, but I don't know, man. It depends, like you said, Rodgers with his dark retreats. His herbal hallucinogens or whatever the hell it is he takes. He might come out a new man, like him go, yeah, I'm done. Or he might come out totally reinvigorated. Who knows? And then ends up staying in Green Bay somehow. Because that's the other thing, that every off season there's something with Rodgers in Green Bay. He's leaving and whatnot. They're trading him, and then he comes back, and then week one he's suited up for them. So
yeah, it just, to me, it wouldn't make much sense for him to go back, because at the end of the day they've got that Jordan Love sitting there that they traded up to get the guy, and you kind of like, well, what was the flipping point of that then if you're not going to use the guy? So he's potentially next year or the year after his contract's up, so he'll walk away for free, and nobody's even going to know who or what he is.
Exactly. I mean, in terms of the quarterback market, like, we also know Baker Mayfield's going to be out there. Garoppolo's another one that's going to be out there. So it's one of those ones, like, there's going to be a few teams fighting for a quarterback here. And I don't really know too much. I mean, but hopefully by the time we come round to our draft episode, I'll have a better understanding of who's actually in the draft. But from what I understand at the moment, it's not. And I think CJ Stroud's the big name that they're talking in this draft. But there's not really many big quarterbacks. They're talking be a lot more quarterbacks the draft.
There's 3 or 4
ones from what I can see at this moment in time.
Yeah, you've got 3 or 4. You've got, obviously, as you said, CJ Stroud. You've got Bryce Young, who's people are on the fence. He's kind of, at the moment, he's very much in that Kyler Murray mode. People are saying he's too small, he's too skinny, he's not strong. But he just seems to have this natural ability to play the ball. So, it's a team may take a flyer. Then you've got Will Levis, and you've got Anthony Richardson, who, some people are comparing potentially to being Lamar Jackson 2.0. If he can sit behind some, Richardson's probably more one of those players where a teams could maybe get a veteran for a year, sit him behind and let him learn because he's only a 1-year starter. Develop him, and then next year, sort of like what the Chargers were originally going to do with Herbert, was sit him for a year, develop him, and then throw him in. So there are a few out there that teams are going to be looking at, and we're just going to have to wait and see. I think how the quarterback market falls, and I suppose as well at the moment, Chicago's got the number 1 overall pick. As much as people are saying they're not going to move on from Justin Fields, you never know. They may decide, actually maybe Fields isn't the one for us, and we'll go elsewhere because we've got this pick for a reason.
Well, that's it. Yeah. If you're kind of like down that kind of the top end of the draft, your quarterback is one of the positions that like really comes under scrutiny, especially a guy like Fields, who's just came in the door. It's one of those ones. Are they going to pull the trigger on bringing someone else in? Or take the risk on another season from? I suppose it depends on what Chicago need elsewhere. At the start of the season, I didn't think Fields looked too bad, but it didn't last long.
Yeah, he was a bit one of those players, a bit hot and cold, but again, he was trying to play with no weapons to help him. Their wide receiver core was probably about as bad as Green Bay's was. The offensive line was trash. There's only so much the guy could do, and later on in the year, he seemed to he got that spark again, and he seemed to do well down the sort of last 4 or 5 games. So again, I think Chicago would be absolutely stupid to give up on the guy, because I do think he has massive potential if they can just give him some sort of support and cast to develop him. To be honest, I was expecting Chicago at the end, in free agency, and that to be like, right, we've got all this cap money, because I think they've got like the second most cap now in the league. To have gone right, we're going to get a wide receiver, improve the offensive line, give them, and they basically just tore it all down and went, we'll just let you, whatever happens. So it's going to be interesting. Potentially they're in a position as well. They can trade that pick to someone who really does want a quarterback and potentially get a massive haul that could help the guy this year. I'm sure number 1 overall pick, somebody's going to, probably chuck him a couple of firsts, a few seconds and what have you to try and get that pick, especially, the quarterback needy teams, potentially like Tampa Bay, for example.
Well, that's they need a quarterback now. They absolutely need 100%, because obviously, he's lodged a letter, so it's happening this year. Tom Brady's finally gone. He announced his retirement on the beach, and people are now trying to sell bits of that sand for ridiculous amounts of money on eBay. But to be honest with you, I don't really waste time. I hate Tom Brady. I'm glad he's gone. I'm sure he'll enjoy his $10 million a year contract with the network. Now, Greg Olsen won't be happy because he's getting demoted to the B team. He's going down to like $3 million a year from like 10, so he'll be absolutely raging. It's a shame because I like Greg Olsen's analysis.
I did actually, I thought he did really well for the Super Bowl. His analysis was fantastic. I thought to be honest.
I really hope Brady does a bad job, and I say that not because of my feelings towards him, because I don't want to like him as an analyst. So hopefully he's absolutely awful, but I've got a bad feeling he's gone. Like Tony Romo's like usually can be quite good with his insight, especially from a quarterback perspective. You're probably going to get that with Brady, and I hate it.
But we'll see. With any luck, he might get stage fright and be a complete waste of space and be gone.
Or maybe he'll go back to the wife and the kids. I don't know. Who knows?
Well, who knows?
But moving on, the main purpose of this episode is to talk about Super Bowl 56, which took place this past Sunday in Arizona, where we saw the Chiefs take on the Eagles, and the Chiefs came out on top with a 38-35 win. Andy, did you stay up all the way through it? Do you religiously take Monday off after the Super Bowl?
Yep, always. First thing, as soon as the schedule comes out, is right. When's the Super Bowl? Right, that Monday's getting booked off as leave. I've done that for years, mate. It's just my little thing. So I stayed up, watched the whole game. I thought overall it was a considering the issues, I thought it was a good game for the neutral to watch. It's just a shame that the pitch and the referees kind of let the game down in the end.
Yeah, I didn't know about the pitch until after the game, that it's a new breed, a hybrid beef or whatever of grass that they decided the Cardinals put in. I think you told me at the start of this season, so the Cardinals have had it all year. So it's not one that was just put in just for the Super Bowl. And a few of the players complained that it was like the pitch was being constantly watered. It felt like they're just slipping and sliding everywhere. And I've seen clips of like it just like churning up, like from kicks and whatnot. It's a strange one because like in our football, we complain that we hate the artificial pitches because we prefer grass, and it's the polar opposite with American football, that they all prefer artificial turf and they feel it's safer to play on than grass. But I guess that's because they have, they're digging their feet into the turf more, to turn this way and that way than you do in our football, I guess. In terms of the referees, all I can really say on it is that Roger Goodell said in the run-up to Super Bowl that he felt the referees had a great season this year, and it tells me two things, right? Firstly, he didn't watch the Seattle game in Week 18 to see how bad the refs are, and secondly, I don't think Roger Goodell watches much football. I mean, he might be at the games, but he looks too preoccupied with trying to entertain some bit that's next to him than to actually, focus on watching the game that he oversees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. I don't understand how he can say the refs have had good seasons, because we all quite clearly know he has.
Yeah,
none of them have.
There's been many no calls, bad calls, inconsistent calls throughout the season. And, one of the main calls that's coming out of the game is James Bradbury's holding call. I'll ask you outright, Andy, before we analyse it. At the time, did you see that as holding?
Yeah, I did. I thought it was very much the same as what happened with us last season with Cooper Kupp getting that hold. It was definitely a hold. But at the same time, I was watching and I was like, hang on a minute. The left tackle's just literally like ripped the guy's face off because he's literally shoved his hand right. And you can clearly see, even at full speed, that he's grabbed his face and he's basically holding the dude by his face. And you're kind of like, well, that's offset and fouls. What are you playing at?
That's it. Like people like tweeting the picture and posting the picture on Facebook, whatnot, going on. It's never holding. I think the problem is because the commentators focused on the left arm and not the right arm, and it's the right arm that is performing the hold. And Bradbury said that himself at post game. No, I was holding him. I tugged at him with my right arm. He admitted it. So because of the analysis, and it just shows you, and Tom Brady should watch this, but advice for you, Tom, like, be careful what you say, because it can really bite you in the arse. Like, post-game, like, if you analyse a call wrong and don't analyse it properly, just like this holding call came, it really can influence, like, people's perception of it. Like, people going, that cost the game. It didn't. No, it didn't.
No, the Jalen Hurts the fumble from that cost them the game, and the fact that I allowed, was it Kadarius Toney to do a 65-yard return on a punt or whatever it was.
Yep.
That's what cost the Eagles the game, and the fact that the Chiefs adjusted in the second half, came out and basically shut pretty much the Eagles down, and the Eagles couldn't answer.
Yep, that's it. I mean, like, with the Eagles went in 24-14 up. They had a 10-point lead going in. The Eagles came out looking, of the two teams, in my opinion, looked stronger the first half. But like you said, Andy, the Chiefs made adjustments at halftime, came out and outscored them, 24-11 in the second half. Putting 17 away in the final quarter. So the Chiefs came in knowing what they had to change up. And then there was a player, the play that they ran them a few times. It was that jet sweep style play they were trying. They ran, and they got it off of the Jags. It was the Jaguars that done it, and the Jaguars used it so effectively against the Eagles' defense. The Chiefs, Andy Reid, the Chiefs used it multiple times in the Super Bowl. And I think I actually believe they got a touchdown off of it as well, if I'm not mistaken. So it's one of those when they came out, they absolutely came out the traps, and like had totally adjusted their game. The Eagles just couldn't really answer it, I guess.
Considering Philly had, the number one running defense and basically the number one defense in the whole league, they just didn't seem to get it. Obviously, you could probably say the pitch had something to do with that, with the amount of slips and trips that players were having even before they got contact. The pitch definitely didn't help them, but for a team that was so good at stopping the run, the Chiefs pretty much ran all over them. I did think just as half time came when Mahomes went down, I thought, okay, if Mahomes is down and gone, that's it. The game's finished. I don't see Chad Henne as much as he's a competent. That the occasion might have been a little bit too much for him to come in, but it was one of those games where the defense and it was silly mistakes that cost the Eagles potentially their Super Bowl. But
that's it, because
for a neutral, it was sort of one of those games you as a neutral you just watch and you're like, this was actually an enjoyable game. Especially if no stress as a neutral watching it. It's not like last year where we're all pulling our hair out. Or for some of us who were lacking hair on our head, we're like pulling leg hairs out and everything else because we got knocked out.
Totally different from 12 months ago. Absolutely. In general, from a neutral's perspective, I thought it was one of the more enjoyable Super Bowl. So last year aside, all the other Super Bowls, it's one of the more enjoyable ones to have watched. It's a good one to watch. Good comeback from the Chiefs, and then obviously to take the lead and win it, fair play them. I was kind of out of the two teams, I'd kind of hoped the Eagles were going to win it, so it stayed in the NFC and whatnot. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter, I guess, who wins it. Football won in the end, I guess.
Yeah, I'd pick the Eagles myself. I just thought though maybe their defense would have that little bit more of an edge to them, but just doubt Mahomes.
I was actually quite surprised at their defense giving up 38 points, considering they'd only given up 14 points across the divisional and the championship games.
Yeah,
their defense. I say if you want, the Whiners didn't have a quarterback. They had a leg to stand on or whatever. But at the end of the day, they couldn't run it. And when the run game's been so effective throughout the season, they couldn't break down the Eagles' defense. So at the end of the day, the Eagles' defense looked strong, and I picked them because I thought the Chiefs gave up 40 points across the Bengals and the Jags games, and I thought to them, like looking at the strength of opponents, I thought with the Eagles, the Giants had a pretty decent season. 49ers annoyingly have had a good season. I thought out of the strength of opponents they've had in the playoffs, the Eagles' defense looked strong, and that's why I gave them the edge, because I thought, well, they've shut down two offenses that have played pretty well this year. And that's not to say the Jags and the Bengals weren't as good. The AFC is we've talked about this during the season, it is a much stronger conference. So a lot of the teams are more on a kind of level field as each other, I guess. Quite like I said, quite surprised the Eagles kind of just seem to just kind of fall apart in the second half, and that's not to take away the credit from Mahomes and your Travis Kelce's to step up that second half and win it.
Yeah, you got to give the credit to Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, and their defensive coach. That they literally, as we said, came out. They went, right, this is how the Eagles. Right, how are we going to solve this? Right, we'll do this, make this adjustment. That's our second half plan. And they came out a completely different team in the second half. And, that is, that's what you want your coaches to do, to actually stand up and go, we need to make changes, and you can see, and, I like Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, his story of how, he was written off time and time again, and he's one of these guys, he just seems like such a likable guy, basically it was his, he's been solid all year, and it was just one basically silly mistake that cost them the game. But
it just shows you the fine margins within this game, doesn't it?
And it shows you that, sometimes like maybe that's just the occasion, just that little got to him a little bit more than Mahomes, who's been there and done it a few times, maybe next, if the Eagles get back again, they've got now, Hurts has got that experience to actually now stand up and go, right, I need to do this instead, and learn from that mistake. And
sometimes,
fair play to a lot of the Eagles players. They have come out and openly said, "Yeah, we didn't play as well as we should have done. That was all. It's all on us. Don't blame anybody else. It was us. We didn't do our job at the end of the day that we should have done."
Yep, definitely. Some talk also, Mahomes got named MVP. It's a bit of a weird one, that one for me, because I'm looking at the stats. He was 21 for 27, 182 yards for 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts, 27 for 38, 304 yards, 1 touchdown, 70 rushing yards off 15 carries and 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
Is there a claim there that the losing team quarterback was the MVP?
Yeah, I think Hurts was the MVP personally myself. If that was the case, because of how well he played, apart from that one stupid mistake, I thought he was the better quarterback out of the two. And to be honest, for me personally, if it has to go to the Super Bowl winner, I thought defensively they were much better. I honestly thought Nick Bolton should have got it for them, because that guy was all over the place.
Yeah,
that guy from the
led
start
them
of the
tackles.
Game, yeah, led them in tackles, got the fumble recovery for the touchdown. Potentially could have had another one if it wasn't called back. The dude was all over the place. It was, and to me that he deserved it more than Mahomes did in the team. Yeah. But of course, as usual, it's going to be Mahomes, because everybody loves him.
That's it, yeah. And he's already been portrayed as the next Tom Brady. He's going to be the next darling of the NFL, which means that the referees are going to give him everything now. So expect that to happen.
Yeah, no doubt. And have more of his brother's stupid TikTok dances and whatever else he does.
Yeah. Yep. What about the halftime show? What did you make of the Super Bowl halftime show?
Didn't watch it, mate.
No?
No. I take that time when the halftime show is on to go and get something to eat, go grab another beer and get myself ready for the second half. In fairness, the wife watched it, and the only thing she said was the show last year was much better.
Yes.
That was her exact words.
I think there is no denying that last year's Super Bowl was probably one of the best ones in a good while. But yeah, it was Rihanna, who, by the way, is pregnant, if anyone didn't know. A few of the guys in the Discord channel, myself, were kind of wondering that, like, either she is pregnant or she has recently been pregnant. It just felt weird for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because she's obviously was using it to not subtly announce that she was pregnant, because the way she was dressed, bumps pretty much kind of like, she's kind of like more like gesturing or bump at the camera through most of the songs. And weird, but also because the focus seemed to be taken off of her by the 300 or so dancers they brought on. So, but I think maybe it's that the dancers were there because she's obviously. My wife was still awake because it's my oldest son's birthday on the 13th of February, so she was up setting up balloons and whatnot for him. So she came through because she wanted to see what Rihanna's show was like. And she was like, the reason the dancers will be there is because people over there expecting her to be jumping about. So the dancers there to take the focus off of her, not really moving as much. But I guess the other thing is, like, there wasn't any like cameos from anyone around that. I said to my wife went, "Oh, she's probably fell out with them all. That's why." And I'm like, I don't know the ins and outs of like the R&B music industry or whatever. Like,
I haven't got a clue. The missus are surprised with her being pregnant, and they let her go. What was it? A couple 100 feet up in the air on a platform. Surprised.
Yeah, basically turning the stage into Super Smash Brothers is what sort of scenes.
Basically,
and once I seen it, I couldn't unsee it.
No,
And
exactly.
I actually had a mate who isn't even a fan of American football sending me a picture, like, and going, that since when was like American football Super Smash Brothers?
Yeah, no,
Like,
exactly.
but well, I wonder who we'll get next year. But I guess if you're a Rihanna fan, it wasn't the worst. I mean, it's I actually did tweet out, like, she's got a song called Please Don't Stop the Music. Like, oh, thank God the music stopped. And that wasn't a criticism of performance. That was just like, thank God this is done, because no discredit to it. It wasn't really enjoyable, unless I guess you're a fan of her. And like you said yourself, Andy, I mean, it's not Snoop Dogg, it's not Jay-Z, it's not 50 Cent, it's not Eminem, it's not Mary J. Blige, and I guess Kendrick Lamar. Do you know what I mean? It's not like that. Which has been labelled as the first Super Bowl halftime show, probably of our generation, where we've actually gone, Christ, we're old. Because usually the Super Bowl is like, you like seeing The Who, Rolling Stones, you've had Paul McCartney, for guys that saying, yeah, it's like, stuff like older people running in, and you're like, hold on, I used to listen to them, and you're like, oh, that must mean I'm getting old then. So
exactly.
Interesting to see who we're going to have next year. But so Kansas City Chiefs are your world champions. They had their victory parade. I think it was yesterday. It would have been. And there's been a 500,000 acclaimed was there, but they're estimating up to 1 million was there. And they've had a lot of digs at the Associated Press, and then the offensive linemen have all had T-shirts made about how they gave up 0 sacks, and suggestion. So this is the other quote that goes there, suggesting what they've to do with that. I.e., they've put it on a T-shirt. Travis Kelce, he the digs he was kind of having at the press was basically about how they'd been written off before the season had started, and making comments like people thought that the Chiefs were going into some kind of rebuilding year, and look, they've just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I have a horrible feeling the Chiefs are slowly tearing into this century or this decade's Patriots with their attitudes of certain players.
Yeah, fortunately, it seems that way, because we've got there's back and forth tweets about like the picture of James Bradbury saying like, oh, I'm holding out for you or whatever, like Valentine's ones from Schuster and whatnot, like which prompted a response from AJ Brown. I've seen as well.
TikTok boy.
Yeah. So like you said, the kind of impression that the Chiefs are going down the kind of same route as you saw with like the Patriots, in like the 2000s, I guess. But yeah, so that was Super Bowl 57. Next year's Super Bowl comes from Las Vegas, and I seen that the Rams they've been ranked as the 15th best chance of making Vegas next year. I'll take that right now. I'll take that right now. I'm not going to lie to you. Because, who knows?
I think that was around where we were last season when we won the Super Bowl.
We certainly weren't in the running last year.
So if that's the case, if that's a good omen, then I'm happy with that.
Yep. So just before we move on to start talking about the off-season so far for the Rams, we did get a question in last week, and it came from Lewis Perry, and it was purely just to ask, what was your favourite Super Bowl that didn't include the Rams? Because obviously your favourite Super Bowls would be, 34 and 56. So Andy, what Super Bowls, not necessarily just one, but what Super Bowls stick out in your mind as ones you've quite enjoyed watching over the years?
Both Giants beating the Patriots and the Eagles beating the Patriots. See a pattern in forming here.
as soon as you said that, it just reminded me it is a pattern, because it is the common answers that come out on Discord. We had that a couple times, and also on Facebook. Patriots, Giants, Super Bowl, and Patriots, Eagles are the kind of common ones. Another one that I've seen come in when I put this on social media was the lights out game with the Ravens and 49ers that nearly led to Niners comeback, obviously, but they fell short. We got one on Jack Stevens. He enjoyed the Steelers versus Cardinals Super Bowl. We've written for Cup 1 on that one. And Fitzgerald's incredible playoff run that season. We have Daniel Flint said that he weirdly liked the Denver Carolina one. I think it was Super Bowl 50. if I'm not mistaken. And then the Super Bowl was about 37. The Bucks versus Raiders one from 2003. And also Reese Chester-Lewis. As much as it's like the Patriots, the Falcons meltdown in Super Bowl, LI made it one of the most memorable games. And, I think everyone else, you can't really, regardless of your feelings on the Patriots, you can't really disagree with that one. That was just absolute, it was just mental. That one, and Duncan McPhee said, for me, it was the first one I saw when I was 9, the Bears Patriots in 1985. It's going way back. I was born. It was my first year of discovering American football, and the Bears were a brutal force of nature. And if it wasn't for those pesky Bears, we would have had our first Super Bowl trophy, and number 29 would have gotten that ring he so clearly deserved. As for myself, trying to think, like, the 2004 Patriots versus the Panthers, where I actually did root for the Patriots for that game, not Tom Brady, the Patriots. I'm making that clear because I don't like Tom Brady. It's purely because the Panthers put us out of the playoffs that year, and I didn't want to win it. So that one, the Denver Carolina one, because I was quite happy to see Peyton Manning win the Super Bowl again, and someone else other than the Indianapolis. Colts Bears one, and I think I was in Miami. Quite enjoyed that one as well, and that shows one as well. I'd probably have to include. I really enjoyed it because, like we said, the first half it was one-sided. It was kind of more to one team, and then the second half it was more to the other team. So I think it was really enjoyable for that. And I suppose any Super Bowl where you've got a field goal to win it, or to seal it is quite enjoyable because that kick, the anticipation around a field goal kick and whether or not he's going to make it gets you on the edge of the seat. So I quite enjoy that aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I can go with that.
Yeah. So moving on to the off season, because that's us. We're all bowled out now. And for us Rams, the off-season began a month ago now, so let's see what's been happening. So, big news, first of all, off the bat, is that Sean McVay is now confirmed that he is staying with the Rams. How you feel about that, Andy? You're happy that McVay's now said that he's going nowhere?
Yep, happy with that, and happy it didn't really drag out too long either. It was a few, about a week, I think, wasn't it? And then he was like, I'm back, basically. Which is giving the team, basically, we can plan going forward what we're doing rather than, lastminute.com, we can now look forward and say, right, what we're going to do in free agency, what we're going to do in the draft, we can get things as quickly and as early as possible sorted.
Yep. The impression I get that is McVay just needed a bit of a kind of short circuit to kind of just like a quick break. The guy's obviously been burned out and whatnot, and we the last episode we talked about, we did say, if you're making this decision, you can't be leaving us waiting weeks, months. You need to decide now what you're doing. You're either in or out. Yes or no. And from what his comments said at the time, it seemed to be a case of as soon as he stepped back, he realised he wanted to step up.
Yeah.
So that kind of short circuit, that kind of circuit breaker for him was enough to tell him, no, I'm not done yet. And, there's obviously enough fire still within him to come back, which is great news, obviously, for us. Elsewhere, we've had Aaron Donald confirming that he'll be returning for 2023. Him and his wife had some good social media posts on Twitter on the night of the championship game. The best one I seen was Erica Donald posting a gif of David Hasselhoff as an eagle flying away. Which I absolutely loved. But, in case you didn't know, folks, Aaron Donald hates the Niners with a passion.
Yeah, he did have a little bit of conversation going on earlier in the off-season, though, didn't he? Because
when you done our last episode, there was hints that I'm done, that's me. But he clarified, no, I'm just talking about this season. If that's the last game I play, so be it. Because at the time, in his mind, what he was meaning was, well, I'm not in the Pro Bowl, so that's my last game, whereas there was an alternate. So he's been teasing a bit with his future. He's had a couple of cryptic tweets, but so far said nothing. He has tried out a new career because during the Pro Bowl games he worked at the concession stand selling hot dogs. But I saw Kevin DeMoff say earlier today, he was asked about trading Ramsey, and he said, and I quote, "I think for all of our players it's going to be about figuring out what's best moving forward, but could not be more grateful for Jalen for what he's done for the Rams leading this defense." What was your take on that quote firstly, Andy?
Gave me shades of Jared Goff, to be honest, and what was said before, exactly
he's
what
CB1
happened.
just now.
Yeah, it is that sort of vibe to it. Is this all just press talk? Because it's the off season, and obviously people are looking at cap stuff and everything else, and people are saying he's washed up. He's 29. He's nearly 30.
Yeah,
it's just papers. Well, we've got nothing else to talk about. We'll just stir the pot, and or is there some sort of truth to this that maybe the team are looking at? We've got to make some casualties down the line, and unfortunately, you would still provide us a decent trade value if we got rid of you, because we want potentially a first round pick in, because maybe they've seen somebody in the draft that they want, but they know they've got to get back, for example, to the first round to get this guy.
Yeah, we talked about this, folks, just before we came on. We were talking about the when we're running through like this is news. We got to just make sure we weren't missing anything. And you were saying yourself, Andy, like in terms of like cap, we're 15 million over. There's a couple of restructure options. Ramsey's one of them, but the easier one to restructure to get his under cap would be Cooper Kupp. Whereas you'd restructure Ramsey to give yourself more room, but you could trade him to possibly give you even more space, I guess, because then you're bringing guys in potentially on rookie contracts as well and saving money that way. Yeah,
exactly. I think it'd be disappointing if we lost him, but at the same time, is it more better for long term for the club to go that route and to get his contract off the books and to maybe get a couple of picks for a guy, to maybe, instead of having one elite guy at the back there, maybe having two decent guys at the back, because we can, potentially trade, draft two guys who potentially will be better in the long run, because that is one thing we do struggle with. Yeah, we've got Ramsey on one side, but on the other side,
we have nothing.
We've got nothing. We're kind of struggling to find players to stick, and we seem to have, even throughout last season. All right, there was a few injuries, but it was like Durant for a couple of weeks, then somebody else for a couple of weeks, then back to Durant again, then back to there was never that stability at that position like we've had for a number of years.
And imagine if this was 12 months ago and we could do some kind of deal with Ramsey to trade back far enough that we could have had someone like Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's one of the ones, like you said, they could have seen something in the draft and thinking, well, we could go back and trade a guy who we could develop into the next Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, exactly.
A fraction of the money.
That those scouts have been out all year,
looking
at them, watching these players, looking at them throughout the year. They say that there is going to be somebody who's going to catch their eye, and it's going to be a case of, oh, you know what? If we got him and him, well, that's two of our corners sorted. We've got our 1 and 2, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We're done. It's just a case of somebody is going to have to leave, and eventually, this, as we've said before, this is going to have to happen at some point. Players are going to have to go because we can't afford to keep them anymore.
No, it's not sustainable, and it's a long-term business plan.
No.
It's one of those ones. It's sustainable if you're still chasing the ring, but we've got the ring, so now it's like, right, well, now we've got the ring, we kind of now need to start thinking medium term, not short term now.
Yeah,
so it's one of those ones. Like
we can run it back. We've got a chance to run it back next year. But potentially after that, are we going to be back next year at the same position? We don't know what McVay's doing. We don't know what Donald's doing. We don't know what Stafford's doing, what Ramsey's going to do, So is it better maybe for the short and the long term to sort of make those deals? But, don't get me wrong. I'd love just to make it clear, I would love Ramsey to stay. Myself personally, I'd love for him to stay, and maybe for us to be able in the second or third round pick up, or maybe get somebody, in the draft, or in free agency, maybe a 1-year cheap deal, just to come in and be that band-aid while we maybe develop somebody for the next year. But at the same time, I'm also looking at the bigger picture of, well, if he does go and we do get, a decent, a first round pick, maybe a third round pick, I would take it, because at the moment we need those picks as well, just to keep the books balanced and to keep the team, having that injection of youth, because that is, something we are beginning to lack. And, even analysts are now saying the Rams are lacking decent youth to take over these positions.
That's it. As much as that again, like just to echo what you're saying, I'd love to keep Jalen Ramsey out of, I think, the elite players. He's probably the only one that I would accept trading away and losing. Cup, I think we should do whatever it takes, to keep him. No matter what, restructure the hell out of his contract every year if I have to do whatever you have to do to keep him on the books. Stafford's at the tail end of his career. We've got him for another couple of years. I think it's 2 seasons after this. It's 2020. Oh, I can't remember. I think 2024 would be the point we would want to look at bringing in a backup that would be his replacement. I think we talked about this. That's how the people have talked about, do we tank next year so we can get Caleb Williams? Don't want us to tank. I want us to run it back, because look at this year. Like Mayfield coming up, like you can pick up a decent backup that could step up. If you work with him right. So much like it'd be great to go out and pick up, an absolute stud at quarterback. It's not the be all end all for me, because there's other areas of the team on the line, in the secondary, on the edge. I'd want the studs there.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that these guys, this Caleb Williams, he looks good at the moment, but let's be honest.
How many guys have looked good in college and have came in and they've done nothing? Johnny Manziel is one that comes off the top of my head. Johnny Football, who was absolutely shit hot in college, and he came in and he just
bad
went his head.
Bad attitude. You look at a fairly recent one, Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
All these players came in with, they were top 5, top 6 picks, all the next thing, and they're all basically now either. All right, Daniel Jones is a bit of an odd one. We don't know what the Giants are going to do with him yet, but basically it looks like the Jets are done with Zach Wilson, and they're moving on already. Drew Lock got moved on for Russell Wilson. I'm beginning to think they may have been better off with Drew Lock, but that's a different story. But
absolutely.
There's no guarantee, and again, there's no guarantee this guy's going to come out next year because of the way the new college football leagues are now with their rights. They can earn just as much staying in college and doing the full college degrees than they can coming out now, because they're getting paid so bloody much. Some of these top players are getting, $5-10 million a year for playing college football. So there's no financial pressure anymore for them to go, I need to declare in my 3rd year and get the heck out of here because I want to earn the money. They can say, actually, you know what? I'll stick for an extra year, finish my college degree, and then come out. So it's always that risk as well with what a guy may look fantastic in college. All it takes is one injury or bad attitude or something, or they just don't adjust to the life in the NFL because it is so much harder for them than college.
Yeah.
So that's my thought. Is that it's not always the best pick play to just go, right, this is the quarterback we want next year. Took Tua Tagovailoa a few years before he sort of got into the rhythm. He sort of was struggling. You had teams, Miami were tapping up Brady to try and get him, and ended up losing their first round pick because they weren't sold on the guy, up until this year when, and sometimes players don't gel with coaches. They may gel well with their college coach, but they don't gel with their NFL coach because they're two completely different ideas and run, to be honest, different schemes than what they used to. That's
it. Like the only way you'll see guys come in from college and hit like absolutely, like the Chills and whatnot, as if, like you said, the coaches operate systems that are very similar to what they've been used to playing in college. These guys that can just, they're basically, I can pick the playbook up, my eyes closed kind of idea. This is the other thing. It's extremely rare to see a guy come in his rookie season especially the quarterback position, and absolutely just light up the league. Other positions it's different, I guess. And you see that so many times. Like you see, like I mentioned, Sauce Gardner, Chase Young, for Washington was another one. In his rookie season, absolutely was on fire. Like, and that's just to name a couple off the top of my head. It's not Rams players. I'm just saying. But I guess we'll cross the bridge of the kind of the college draft.
Yeah.
Late in the off season. But elsewhere with don't know if you've seen Ronnie Rivers won $500,000 in Vegas during the Pro Bowl weekend on free card poker. And unfortunately, Torrey Holt has been snubbed once again for the Hall of Fame. And I don't know if you probably can't tell, but I've decided to wear my 81 tonight in recognition of a genuine Hall of Famer in our eyes. I don't know what it's going to take to get Holt, and he's the only member of the Great Show core that's not in. I don't know what he needs to do again. People now question, has he said something?
That's my attitude. Has he ever said something that's controversial, or has he done something that's controversial at teams? As he fell out with Roger, as he said anything bad about Roger Goodell, that's why he's not getting in.
No idea.
I just don't understand how the guy cannot get in. And it's not as if it's, year after year after year, the guy's not getting in. It's not as if it's the first nomination he's been nominated. And he's just like...
He's getting to the final every time. Yeah. So it's not like he's always been nominated, but he doesn't make it. He gets to the final every single year. And it's... I just don't get it. And I think the sad thing is, there's guys that are going to start coming up that are going to be like first ballots. Yeah. And then it's like, is Torrey Holt ever going to get in? And it'll be an absolute travesty if he doesn't get in.
Yeah, exactly.
The guy, like, I think he only missed something like 2 or 3 games in his whole career.
Yeah.
He put up some amazing yards. He was fantastic for us. And he's done enough in less game and more. He'd done enough in less games than what other guys did in more games to get in.
Yeah, exactly. That's the bit I don't get. Some of these players are going in, and you're like, "Hang on, you've not even had half the freaking career that this Torrey Holt had, and you're getting." Yep. How the hell do you fucking? So I think sometimes it's a popularity vote. Maybe the guy just wasn't popular with his players, and that's why he's not getting anything.
Perhaps.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Fingers crossed for next year, I guess.
Yeah, that's all we can do is hope that eventually he'll get in. And just gotta keep trying, and eventually he'll get there.
Yep. And then just lastly, in off-season news, there's been a few movements in terms of coaching. The 2 main ones is our new offensive coordinator is Mike LaFleur, who trades New York for LA. He's our offensive coordinator and confirmed today that Sean McVay is still going to be calling the plays, and he's absolutely fine with that. Raheem Morris will be sticking with us as defensive coordinator after being up for a few jobs, most notably the Colts. The Colts were stringing it on, but they've now had someone else, so we've now kept Morris for another year, which seems to be some mixed messages. But to be honest, given the way the Colts were stringing it out, we were potentially losing some guys that we were going to be looking at as a replacement for him. So, at least he's not going in and we're stuck and not able to bring in the guys we want to bring in to replace him. Elsewhere, Nick Keeley's our new tight ends coach. Ryan Wendell comes in as our new offensive line coach. He used to play offensive line for the Patriots and was an assistant at the Bills. And then just this evening, we have confirmed University of Washington coach Jimmy Lake. He signed on in it's not been confirmed what role, just as a spot in the coach staff, but it's believed that it's going to be a defensive back role, as he previously worked with Taylor Rapp, I believe, in college. So it's good to see that we've been kind of hitting the ground running, I guess. LaFleur coming in, he was the first one that came in. It was what's your feelings on our new offensive coordinator, Andy?
To be honest, give the guy a chance. I know he didn't look particularly good in New York, but again, maybe our scheme and that will give him that benefit to maybe understand and learn maybe a bit under Sean McVay, and let's just see what the guy does. He wasn't my first choice for offensive coordinator, but he's here. Let's get behind the guy and let's just see, maybe he can put up a few ideas, into McVay's head for running plays to maybe, make us a bit more effective, especially in, the run game.
Well,
look what he did look what he did with Brees Hall when he was fit and healthy. You know, the guy for the first few weeks was looking like, you know, if he can do that with, you know, maybe help out with that, I'm not going to argue with it.
Yep, let's give everyone another chance, I guess. That just wraps up. Was there anything else that I've missed? And I think I've covered as much as what we've gone on. I guess it has been a busy month. I think we expected there not to be much news so far, but yeah, it's been busy enough for the Rams.
It's been busy enough, you know. Personally, myself, I would have liked to have maybe seen some news about our upcoming free agents. Are we going to keep any? Are we not going to keep any? Because again, we're kind of looking, but obviously, I think at the moment the cap situation just won't allow us. And I think looking at what the team is doing, it's doing exactly what it did last year. Is it's going to let everybody hit free agency, maybe put them an offer, a team-friendly offer, and if they want to go elsewhere to get more money, then we can't afford to compete with other teams. You know, which is why sometimes I think I'd rather the team did some of their stuff for important players in the season rather than at the end of the season and play this game. I'd rather, you know, the likes of Greg Gaines and that be told, you know, right, we're extending you now for next year. So, you know, we can maybe adjust the cap a bit then. And, you know, personally myself, I don't like, because, you know, the last few years now, we've had to let these players go because they don't want to come back. But obviously, there's rumours going around that John Johnson, I don't know if he's been cut or he's about to be cut by the Browns. And obviously, we're potentially one of the favourites to come and bring him back again. You know, he maybe want to come back to the Rams. And, you know, with us losing the likes of Taylor Rapp and I believe Nick Scott, he could potentially be a nice little pickup for us to put back there again and see if he can.
I would very much like to see him come back. I was gutted to see him leave.
I was gutted to see him leave as well. You know, I'd have liked to have kept him, but again, he was just overpriced. But again, if he gets cut, he's one that we could maybe get on a veteran minimum deal, you know, to keep the cap hit down and just say, right, you know what, even if it's just for a year, right, you go back there again for a year, show what you can do, and then maybe go back to free agency if you want the year after, you know, maybe it's a plug just for a year to see what he can do. Because, you know, since he's gone to the Browns, he's not really done. Again, much like Troy Hill, he's gone somewhere else and he's not really looked the same player. Maybe the scheme doesn't fit him compared to, you know, what we do, you know, how we run it.
Yeah. But we'll obviously be back next month to talk about free agency. And by that point, hopefully, we'll be in a clearer kind of picture of what's happening with the guys, like you said, the guys that are going out and any guys that are potentially coming in. But other than that, Andy, what's your plans for the off-season? Are you going to be watching? Because we've got the XFL starting up this week, and in April we've got the USFL starting up.
Yeah,
any of these weeks.
I'm going to try to, if I can, try and watch a few of those games, you know, just to keep my football fix in for the off season, because it is one thing I do, you know. It's a long off season, you know, so a little bit of a fix. So, you know, I might give both of these leagues a little go and see what they're like, and, you know. Again, you know, I sometimes watch these because I look at players and think, well, hang on, could we maybe bring that player in on a cheap, you know, deal for us to potentially, you know, step up from one league to the next. So, you know, maybe do a bit of self-scouting on a few players and see what we can see if there's anybody that catches the eye, maybe. What about yourself?
Will you be supporting St. Louis?
Yes, naturally.
I'm going to be watching the XFL.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be watching the XFL. I quite enjoyed that the 2020 version of it. We had it in BT Sport, but I don't believe UK TV showing it. I think we have to watch it through ESPN Player, so it's another subscription service. But yeah, I'll be supporting the Battlehawks, not just because they're the St. Louis team, obviously it's for part of history, but had a look at the team. So there is actually quite a few Rams connections on it. So Austin Prohl, son of Ricky Prohl, is on the roster as a wide receiver. Ricky Prohl is the wide receivers coach. Leroy Glover, who played defensive line for his, I think, 06 to 08, he's the defensive line coach. And the head coach is Anthony Bext, who played tight end for us from about 2008. So there's a few Rams connections there. So it's even more a reason why I will be supporting the Battlehawks in the XFL. As for the USFL, I haven't got that far, but has Jeff Fisher not been sacked already and they've not even kicked off yet? I think I've seen that. So I'm not really too bored about the USFL, but I'll watch the XFL. They think they've split it so the games are Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, so they're right through the weekend now. So it'll keep the football fix going, I guess. AJ McCarron, another. He played for the Bengals for a few years. He's the quarterback of the Battlehawks as well. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any guys that stand out in this league, like you said, that guys could, kind of bring in on cheap deals. But it's football, I guess, isn't it? I've actually worked out there is a way you can have your football fix from now right through to pre-season. So you watch the XFL, watch the USFL, and then there's the European American Football League that goes right through the summer, and that takes you right up to pre-season. So there is a way of watching football all year round now.
Okay. Interesting. I have to give that a go.
Yeah.
I've never really watched any of the European games, but I might have to actually give that a go.
I've not watched much of it myself. I've seen me clips. I follow the Twitter account. There is a Rams team, the Istanbul Rams, but a few of the teams, I'll just bring them up here, are, if anyone remembers the old NFL Europe, a few of the teams from there have essentially been reformed under the European League of Football. And they've actually expanded this year as well. So, if anyone remembers the Cologne Centurions, Frankfurt Galaxy, Hamburg Sea Devils, Rhein Fire, Barcelona Dragons and Berlin Thunder from the NFL Europe, they are all here. I said the Istanbul Rams, they're now a formal team because they are on hiatus for 2023, but they've got teams also in Paris starting up this year, like a team in Zurich, Milan, Munich have got a team, Innsbruck, Stuttgart. There's a team in, is that Hungary? Yep, Hungary. I can't pronounce the name of the city. I'm not going to try. There's a lot of hyphens in there. Leipzig, Wroclaw, Prague, and Vienna. So, and let's say the I think it's the Paris and the Milan teams are expansion teams this year. So they've got 3 conferences and they're expanding further. So I saw highlights of stuff last year. So this year I'm going to hopefully try and give it more of a kind of a go, but you can watch the games like through the season. The most of the teams play in decent sized stadiums, like actual football stadiums like Dusseldorf and whatnot. So it's not that they're playing in like public parks or anything like that. They are trying to build this up, and to be a kind of reputable European league, which is great. And fingers crossed over the coming years it could even expand even more, and we could have. That I would rather see a UK team in this league than I would rather see a UK NFL team, because a UK team in this league would work, and then you've got more of a chance of, essentially what I'm trying to say is bring back NFL Europe, but don't bring back NFL Europe, is you could probably send guys out in development in the off season, I guess. We send guys, future players and whatnot. This is the kind of place you could send them out to in the off season and to keep tabs on them. And then you're working them through the season. So for me, I'm behind this league, and hopefully can see it expand more and it develops more. But they only started up in 2021. It's like, so they're into their 3rd season now. So long may it continue. But other than that, the other off-season plan I've got, and I'm 12 months late, I guess, on this. If I said this 12 months ago, it would have been totally in context to everyone that hears it, but I'm going to Disneyland. So that's my main off-season plan this year.
No, fair enough, mate. Enjoy.
I will do. 12 months ago, if I said that, it would have been total context to winning the Super Bowl. I'm off to Disneyland Paris on Monday and looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my hands on any Rams ears, and I have seen Mickey ears that have got the ram horns on them, but I couldn't get my hands on them, so I'm going with Avengers.
Okay, yeah, that's good choice.
Yeah. But on that wraps us up for another episode of the LA Rams UK podcast. Let's say we'll be back next month, kind of hopefully around about middle of March-ish. We'll see how free agency is kind of shaping up, and we'll be there to talk about free agency for the Rams and anything about the league as a whole. But for now, Andy, always a pleasure to chat with you, mate. I'll catch you, I guess, in a month's time for free agency.
Yep, always a pleasure to talk to you, mate. And let's hope free agency is kind to us.
I'd like to say I have no doubts that it will be, but it's as like you said, we tend to just cut everyone and then just hope we can send guys back. But we'll see, I guess, in a month's time. But thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you next month for our free agency episode.